Good afternoon and welcome to the Tuesday, October 15th, 2019 Public Works Committee meeting. Now is the time for roll call and determination of quorum.
Evans? Armstrong? Here. Robert? Here. Stroman? Here. Modrick? Here.
Thank you very much. And now for the adoption of the agenda.
So moved. Second.
And you'll have to excuse me, I have a cold. So we had a motion by Councilwoman Armstrong and a second by Councilwoman Modrick. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Now it's time for general public comment. It's a time for members of the public to discuss or express concerns to the committee on any issue not limited to items on the agenda. Action will not be taken at the meeting on any issue not on the agenda except by placement on the agenda by unanimous vote of the council members present. And I don't see any general public comment. I don't think I have anybody out here that wants to speak on anything not on the agenda. So I will close that and I will go to consent items, items 1 through 13. And I will open public comment on items 1 through 13. And I don't have any speaker requests here. I don't see anybody in the audience jumping up and down. So I will close public comment on items 1 through 13, and I will look for a motion on items 1 through 13. Go ahead.
Number 8.
Thank you, Councilman Evans. He is pulling item number 8, so I will look for any other council people that may want to pull something. Mr. Stroman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I need to abstain from item 5.
So Mr. Stroman will, or Councilman Stroman will be abstaining from item 5, and we will be pulling item 8. So we will pull item 5 so we can vote on it with an abstention. So item 5 is approve, or, well, I need a motion for the other items.
Motion to approve 1 through 13.
5 and 8. So we have a motion from, excuse me, Councilwoman Armstrong, and a second again from Councilwoman Modrick. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Item number 5, approve a request by BH Capital 7 LLC for authorization to prepare an H lot located in section 32 T2N R8E BHM, Rapid City, Pennington County, South Dakota, and to authorize acceptance of the deed. And I'll look for a motion. Got a motion by Councilwoman Armstrong and a second by Councilman Evans, and Mr. Stroman is abstaining. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Item number 8, authorize staff to advertise for bids downtown lighting project, project number 19-2500, CIP number 51228. Engineer's estimate $1,177,560.
Thank you.
And you have the floor.
Yeah, I think I would just like to ask for some information, I think, from Mr. Tech as to how this process is going and who all is involved. I know that I think Destination Rapid City is. When we're spending that much money and redoing lighting, it makes a huge aesthetic change in a community, especially when it's a downtown area, and I just want to make sure all the bases are covered and all the parties involved have had their input. For instance, something as simple as Christmas lighting and circuitry for that and whatnot. And I also know that as a sustainability committee person, we're concerned about the Dark Skies Initiative and whether or not that has been addressed at all in this and future lighting plans. So if we could just have an update, I'd appreciate it.
There were a lot of questions in there, so I'll do my best to try to address them. As you all are aware, this is a Vision Fund project, so I believe Destination Rapid City, in conjunction with, I believe, the Downtown Bid Board, the Downtown Group, brought this project forward and was approved by City Council for funding. There was a lot of work that's been put in on the design of this project and input from all the property owners downtown. I think it goes all the way back to 2014. I know the consultant that was hired to do the work, Skyline Engineering, electrical engineers specialize in lighting, has done the work. I believe they had many exhibits, public meetings for all the downtown folks, all the stakeholders, to get buy-in on what the project was going to look like when it was finished. Additionally, there was questions asked about, well, you're increasing the amount of lighting downtown, let's try to do it in an efficient manner. So they are specifying LED fixtures. So with the increase in lighting that you'll see in the corridors, it's actually going to use less energy than the current lighting system that we have downtown. So that's a bonus. Not only that, the fixtures should last a lot longer. Should be lower maintenance with the LED type fixture. So that's a bonus. I can't speak specifically to the banner issue. I believe that Destination Rapid City has worked with the Parks Department and other interested parties that there are banners that will be able to be installed on certainly the taller light fixtures. There are some smaller pedestrian fixtures that you couldn't hang a banner on because people would be walking into them type issues. So I believe those items have been considered, addressed, included in the project. As far as dark skies, I can't speak to that. I know that Destination Rapid City, their consultant has involved people that have asked about it. I don't know, certainly it's not going to be certified dark skies friendly, but they're doing the best they can with the goals that they had in providing better lighting in those corridors downtown.
I take that to mean we have a sort of a dual level thing going in that's vehicular lighting and also pedestrian scale lighting, because you did mention, and so that's part of the plan.
That's correct.
Is there any place that we can maybe observe, look at some of those concept drawings or something?
Certainly, if you reach out to Destination Rapid City, their consultant Skyline, Jamie Stampy is the gentleman's name at Skyline. I'm certain he'd be more than happy to share those with you.
Thank you, and we have no one else in the queue. So if we can get a motion?
Motion to approve. Second.
Got a motion to approve from Councilwoman Modrick. We've got a second from Councilman Stroman. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. And that's the end of consent items, or non-consent items. On to consent items, or non-consent items, excuse me. We'll open public comment for items 14 through 16, and I do have one speaker request form from Shane Delbridge, I believe. Is that correct? If you would give us your name and your address.
Shane Delbridge, work at Herman Senegi Engineering at 2693 C Commerce Road.
Thank you.
Rapid City, South Dakota. Just here on behalf, you got the handout there in front of you for the Coca-Cola bottling company High Country. They're looking to build a storage building, just a 60 by 60 storage building, right north of their existing 60 by 60 storage building that is located east of their plant. With the mandates on sidewalks, he's just looking to postpone the building of the sidewalk. He's not saying that they won't ever build the sidewalk. He just would like to make a sidewalk that goes somewhere. Right now, as it sits, there's no sidewalk until you get down to where they built the Federal Credit Union building. And then around, I believe, you got to get clear over by near the nursing home on the other side. So there's proximity on that side of the street, there's no sidewalks. When Strider and Western Fire and Teshiers were built across the street from them, they did put in their chunk of sidewalk, but there again, it dead ends at the drainage ditch on the one side and into the grass on the other. His proposal, as you can read in there, would be as if somebody brings a sidewalk either up from the east or up from the west, then he would put in the whole length of sidewalk, which would be 1,342 feet plus or minus across his frontage of both of his lots. The other being is if the city of Rapid City does their upgrade to North Plaza Drive to bring it up to the current standard for an arterial road, then he'll put in his sidewalk. Short of that, he understands that city council and you, it's been staff denied, but this is new information that come up after we put in the request. So that's why we're here today, just to get it in the queue for the city council meeting next week. And then as far as building expansion on their current plant, he looks, they're as big as they're going to be for the foreseeable future, around 15 to 30 years, they're not going to expand. So that round 1,000-foot chunk, until the roadway is built, there won't be a sidewalk there. So I guess if you got any questions on what was wrote or the illustration, I'll take those questions.
Thank you, and we will ask you when we get to the motion.
Okay.
I don't have anyone else that I see that wants to speak for the public comment section on any other items. So I will close public comment, and we will go on to item 14, a request from Hermanson Eggy, is that right?
Yep.
Engineering Incorporated, for a variance to waive the requirement to install sidewalk along North Plaza Drive, Rapid City, per ordinance 12.08.060. And Alderwoman Modrick, you're in the queue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you know, I always like to address the fact that we have sidewalks that go to nowhere on some of these projects. Sometimes it has to do with the area, the business climate, the business style, what drives on the road, and if it is walkability, or if it is even, if this is too early for walkability. And in this project, although staff's required to make a deny statement due to the criteria, this is a perfect example of another variance that should be reviewed and accepted by this request. If you go out there, as well as if you are seeing it on the maps, either way, it does not align with anything. Calling in a sidewalk will always be an option for a city council, but I think that's something way down in the future because it's far from that option as well on here. I do have a question for Dale, if I could. Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dale, one of the questions I have is along that roadway on North Plaza and going in that direction is a golf course. And if the council ever started taking zones and calling in sidewalks, how would that be the responsibility? Because at some point, if we are going to go into a sidewalk project, we would need to make sure everybody is on board of that sidewalk project. We couldn't be selective. How would that tie in from where we're talking on this proposal and any future development that's happening in that direction? Who would be responsible for that, and how would that work?
The responsibility of sidewalks is the adjoining property owner. The golf course that you mentioned there, that's a private golf course that's privately owned. Whomever is adjacent to the roadway on whatever side of the roadway you're installing sidewalk, they're required to put the sidewalk in.
So they wouldn't, certainly at this point, we don't foresee where they would have a project that would trigger a sidewalk install. Really then it would be, much like what Shane said, probably a road project that would cause that to happen.
Or an action of the city council. Certainly the city council, as you mentioned earlier, can order sidewalks in anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Do you know what the mileage is between going from Deadwood Avenue and then up into that construction, or into that industrial and business area? What, by the time we get up to
It's about a
Coca-Cola?
half mile, I'd say.
So we'd be talking about, in order to be fair, calling in a half a mile worth of sidewalks on both sides.
Well, it depends on where you're trying to get from. I know there's a fairly intensive residential area on the east side. Are those folks walking all the way to Deadwood Avenue? I don't know. Certainly, there's been discussion in the past about the demand along Deadwood Avenue for sidewalks. In fact, that was one of the priority areas that I believe city staff brought to this council. It's been a few years ago about where should sidewalks be installed. Deadwood Avenue certainly was one of those areas.
And that is what we're, once again, this is an area that is not a sidewalk area. We've called in on a few of them that have gone in, but those are sidewalks to nowhere. What they have is cost, they have maintenance required, they have repair required, snow removal by ordinance required on these sidewalks to nowhere that don't have any walkable on it. And this project may look big on paper, but the biggest project is taking the sidewalks all the way. And this is not an all-the-way call-in project. So I believe we should look at this in a variance mode. I think it's perfectly acceptable, and I would support a variance on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Armstrong, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. May I direct a question to Mr. Tech?
You may.
Thank you. Mr. Tech, we looped you in on this letter earlier, and we had a little bit of a discussion. Could you just clarify why staff made the denial recommendation?
Certainly. It's consistent with our ordinance. Our ordinance simply states that when you come in and pull a building permit, you're to build a sidewalk. There are instances when staff supports the waiving of those requirements. Certainly this is not one. This is a pretty easy build. So there aren't topography reasons or anything like that to provide additional weight to waiving the ordinance. It's pretty cut and dried as far as staff is concerned, that you're pulling a building permit. That's the way eventually our community will be fully sidewalked, is by people following the ordinance.
Thank you for clarifying that. And then, are there other sidewalks on that road?
Directly across the road, I believe Mr. Delbridge mentioned that when Strider and Tessiers built their buildings, they installed sidewalks as the ordinance required.
Great, thank you so much. And just reading through this email that was directed to us, it's a little bit all over the place, because they're saying that they don't foresee building on this area for the next 15 to 30 years, and they're happy to put in 315 linear feet of sidewalk, but the reality is that the additional 1,000 feet of sidewalk, it kind of goes on, and I just don't want to kick the can down 15, 30 years. I kind of want to stand behind the ordinance. If we put this as a part of the ordinance, we really need to be a little more consistent. But to Mrs. Modrick's point, I know that there are some exceptions, but I'm seeing a lot more exceptions rather enforcement. So I'll yield at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Evans, you have the floor.
I didn't get a chance to go out and look. Is the new credit union processing building, does that have a sidewalk? That's on the same side of the road, correct? It does.
Yes.
So the process has begun somewhat, and the farm credit one does, because I've stopped in there. So there are instances on that side where it's already spotty, but it's sort of haphazardly being built.
It can be categorized as a patchwork, yes.
Yes, okay.
It's not consistent.
Thank you. Councilman Stroman, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. May I ask Dale a question also? Dale, in the report, it says that staff sees a growing need for sidewalk in the area with Harmony Heights Apartments and the senior center just down the road. Aren't there there's a church also there, correct? And
Correct.
There's foot traffic there, or there's a lot of traffic there when people are going to pick up kids and things like that. Is there not? Is there?
Indeed, there are a number of folks that utilize the roadway to walk. I've had a number of conversations with folks in the area that is a concern of theirs, that the folks are out walking on the roadway.
And so like people at Harmony Heights or the senior center, if they just want to go out for a leisurely stroll or something, they could be off the street, if, at least in this portion of sidewalk or where there's already sidewalk.
Sure.
That's all I have, thank you.
Thank you. And we have no one else in the queue looking for a motion on this.
Second.
We have a motion to deny by Councilwoman Armstrong and a second by Councilman Stroman. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Motion passes and goes to the council for more debate Monday night. Item 15, request from KTM Design Solutions Incorporated for an exception to allow more than 40 dwelling units with one point of access per section 2.6 of the Infrastructure Design Criteria Manual, IDCM. A single access can only serve 40 dwelling units unless an exception is approved by City Council. We have a motion to approve with stipulations from Councilwoman Armstrong and a second by Councilwoman Modrick. And Councilwoman Modrick, you have the floor.
Mr. Chair. This is another one of those, it's just an example that sometimes exceptions are necessary, they're required, variances are. Everything can't be black and white. We've got to look at the big picture, and this approval with stipulations is going outside of the 40 dwelling units because it was deemed that it could be approved with stipulations, even though that is a criteria in the design manual. So these things do happen. That's one of the jobs of the City Council, is to weigh and stay in balance with what works on each project. This particular one I can support because it does have an approval with stipulations, and it's a good project, and those good projects deserve the review and the approval. Thank you.
Thank you. You coming in, Greg?
Yeah, thank you. I just want to point out that the stipulations are that they call for the new residential structure to be fire sprinkled as required by the Fire and Life Safety Division of the Fire Department. And I think that's important to point that out, that the stipulations, I think, do provide for the safety, and I would approve this with stipulations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else want in the queue? If not, we have a motion on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Item 16 from Solid Waste. Solid Waste Division update on marketing and recycling operations. And you have the floor.
Thank you. My name is Dan Kuhn. I'm the Assistant Public Works Director for the City of Rapid City. And I have the pleasure today of introducing Jancy Hagar and Stephen Pauli with our Solid Waste Division. And they will be giving you a presentation on some initiatives in recycling and marketing for the Solid Waste Division. So with that, Jancy and Steve.
All right, Council, thank you for having us. I'm Jancy Hager, I'm the Admin Secretary out at the Solid Waste Division. This is Steve, our Superintendent. He's been here for about a year now. So we're going to go ahead and get started here. All right. So I was tasked with looking at our website and our marketing at the Solid Waste Division here a couple months ago. And this is what we've come up with. This here is our current website. It is located on the City of Rapid City's official web page. It's a website within a website, so it's a little bit cumbersome. All of our control systems are at the bottom, as you can see in the subcategories, to move around those pages, which tend to be a little bit difficult sometimes. So we went ahead and designed a new website. This is our new website for the Solid Waste Division. With that, we still have a lot of the similar qualities that we had on the original one. What goes where is a recycling task that we have, where if you have an item like a glass bottle and you don't know where it goes, you can type it in there. And it'll give you resources of if you can recycle it, or if it's just regular garbage, or if it's not allowed at our landfill. I know we did a household hazardous waste drive last weekend where we talked a lot about those chemicals and things that we really can't have. So this is a source on a day-to-day basis of something that they can go to look at, as well as instead of an address-based point system for our collection days, we went to a map. And then we do also have email notifications for any day changes due to holiday emergencies because of snow, things like that. So here we're taking a little bit closer look at our map. This is Rapid City. It's a Google Map-based system where you can, in the center there, type in your address, and it'll come up highlighted in one of our colors. And they are coded at the top Monday through Friday as to which day you're on. And then on the bottom here, we have in blue our Stay Informed. That's where you put in your name and your address and your email. And that will get you into our queue to get email alerts for any holidays that we have off, emergencies because of snow delay, things of that nature. It's just really handy. It helps us keep the public as educated as possible. Continuing on to our What Goes Where, the larger picture here is our main page if you click on the What Goes Where. And if you've got something, you can click on any of those pictures there, and it'll give you a list of different items that classify under that category, as well as the smaller green What Goes Where. That is on every single page of our website. So it's real handy. It's there. You can type in any item, and it'll pop up what the best means for it is. And here's where I'm going to turn it over to Steve.
That website goes live tomorrow. So, this is the current state of recycling across the country. As you can see, there's a lot of communities that have sort of taken a break from it and given up. You know, it's in the Southwest, Texas, all the way up to Michigan too. That's not our focus. Here's some that alternated it. Some are discontinuing glass, some are discontinuing plastic, mixed paper, and things like that. You see Nashville, Tennessee nixes the glass connection in the metropolitan there. What we did is we did a sort of a route audit, and these are some of our routes. On the average, it's 10 to 14 participation, but we do have some areas that are in the 30-35 range. So we still feel confident about our recycling efforts. Here is our diversion summary at the landfill. You have the less exempt tonnage, can be some soil jobs and things like that, and asphalt. Then you got your recycling and then composted. So if you look at the August numbers, we did about a third of it was diverted from going into the landfill. So Jeff Barber and his folks did a nice job. So. Back to our recycling. One thing with this 35-gallon is items are getting logged in there, and with the winds here in Rapid City, they blow away pretty easy. So we're going to a unified container, 65-gallon for the trash there if they want that, or a larger 90. But it's a blue lid versus a blue container. That way, for cost efficiency, we can use the same bottom half for trash or recycle, and you just pop the lid. So it's saving on costs, when it's also meeting the residents' needs of getting something a little more efficient to put their items in. Our recycling program, why we're still staying with it for the main part is our MRF, they do a good job of getting clean items. We're still getting money for our items. So that's why we're not abandoning like these other communities. Do you want to talk about your?
Okay. So with that, obviously, we do still have a lot of resources for our recycling. And with that, we want to try and use it to the best of our ability. With those larger containers, we are taking the opportunity to really hone in on our recycling and look at our focus on how we can get those numbers up. 10 to 14% is really low. And we really want to try and see the rest of the community hit that 30 to 35. So we're going to be looking at doing some recycling campaigns. With those email addresses that we get on the website, we can also send out other emails. So periodic recycling campaigns through email, We always do a yearly mailing right at the beginning of the year with our holiday schedule on it as well. So we're looking at adding some type of recycling plug to those mailings as well. Looking at working more media segments in to just get the recycling and the education out there and really focus in on clean recycling, because our guys do a really great job. But with the help of the community, we could really do even better. So I'm really excited for 2020 and definitely be keeping an eye out for that to come. And then household hazardous waste has been the talk of the town for the last month or so. So we just wanted to bring our numbers with us. Saturday was a huge success. We serviced over 600 cars. There was 93 different products that were collected for just over 2,500 gallons of hazardous material that was pulled. The project, of course, is a large cost for the solid waste, but we definitely try to do that every other year as a community outreach. This year we did throw in the twist of Feeding South Dakota as well, and we got almost 2,000 pounds worth of non-perishable items and about $400 worth in monetary donations as well. So we just want to thank the community for being so giving and supporting us and supporting Feeding South Dakota as well. Thank you guys so much.
Any questions?
Thank you very much. And Councilwoman Armstrong, are you in the queue, or did I not take you out?
I'm in the queue.
You have the floor then.
Thank you. Great presentation. I'm really happy that you do what you do out there, and we really need to get more people recycling. I would suggest maybe getting into the schools as well. My children just graduated in May, and one of their very first field trips when they were in kindergarten was to the recycle center, and it made an impact. And I think if we start early, and we know how children are, they'll get their families and their friends involved and say, you need to do this too. So whatever we can do to make recycling a priority in Rapid City, I will completely stand behind. The 10 to 14% participation rate, how did you come up with that figure?
Basically off of tonnages.
Off of
Tonnages?
tonnages, okay, all right, because I haul mine, I don't have curbside, I haul mine in.
Right.
So I want to make sure that I'm getting counted for what
Right.
we do in our family. Okay, thank you, keep up the great work.
Thank you. Councilwoman Moderick, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. May I ask a couple of questions as well?
Yes, you may.
Great. Always glad to get this out to the public. It's fantastic, and just like Councilwoman Armstrong said, once we become a habitual recycler, there's no going back. So that's a good habit to have. I've got a question on the new container. When will those larger containers be swapped out for the size that there is now?
When people call in for an exchange, so we're sort of leaving the 35s until they call in, say it's broken lid or something like that, then we're switching them out. But we've
So
been
the smaller ones will be there for a while.
or if somebody calls and wants the larger, they can get one right away.
That's great
So
to
we
know
don't-
as well. What's the cost difference if they go larger?
Nothing.
Wonderful. Great incentive. That helps boost this up as well. Does it change the truck routes or the size of the trucks as we go into the larger containers?
No, it doesn't. It's actually easier because it's closer to the size of the waste container.
Fantastic. Thank you. Great project. Love that you're saving money while expanding our recycling container. It's a good project, and let's see more of it with your campaign. It's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Evans, you have the floor.
Yeah, I just want to reinforce what the two councilwomen have both said and reiterate my support for that and everything that you're doing. I was, like I said to you guys earlier, I was very proud that Rapid City was at the forefront of this 25 or 30 years ago. And I think it's time that we kind of redouble our efforts to, again, move to the front and with maybe some forward-thinking ideas. But I do want to also point out that the use of some lingo is sometimes confusing to people. When you say clean recycling, a lot of people take that to mean I've got to wash these things all out, and therefore I'm not going to do it. It's too much trouble. So we have to be very careful with the semantics of it, because people misinterpret that, and then it becomes an excuse not to participate. So maybe we need to change the way you talk to the public when you use that sort of, because it doesn't really mean washing all of your stuff out. as
Yep,
we
no,
know.
and
So-
that would be part of the campaigns, is maybe fun videos or just something to educate the public on what clean does mean. So pulling our glass jars, separating them from glass lids, peeling labels, things like that is definitely in the air of.
Plastic bags.
There's some metal lids too. To really educate them on what clean means and getting them to understand and become more comfortable habitual recyclers.
Thank you. Dale, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd just like to give my thanks to Jancy and Steve on the hard work they did. They were tasked with, we need a better user-friendly website. What are the top 10 questions that get asked? And that needs to be the focus of our website. They've knocked that out of the park. So good job on them. I see Lisanne Zeller, the chair of the Sustainability Committee, is here. Dan and I had the pleasure of meeting with Lisanne and Zach a week or two ago. They're going to do everything they can to help us, help the community, try to get more involved in recycling. That's a program that we're very proud of, but we can only do so much from the city side. We need everyone's help in this. So, thank you.
And thank you very much. Now, if you could just make the rest of the city's website easier. So, we have a motion to acknowledge and a second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? We have a motion to adjourn by Councilwoman Armstrong and a second by Councilman Evans. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you very much.